Hey, my name is Bill Shirley. I am president of CHASEN, and a lot of people are asking what CHASEN stands for, and it's Citrus Heights Areas 7, 8, and 9. So we actually do take in 3 areas here. Everything east of Sunrise from Greenback up to Roseville County line. So it's a pretty good large size area. And I just want to thank you for coming out tonight and for the turnout, and from people that are coming in from some of the different areas outside of our particular CHASEN area. And thankful that, or thank Brian Holloway and Ethan Conrad's going to be here in a few minutes to be able to do this presentation. I'm trying to think. Okay, we do have a representative. Oh, she just stood up. We have our city councilwoman here tonight. And appreciate her attending. And I'm trying to think of what else. We do have representatives from our local papers, the Sentinel and the Messenger, and so thank you for coming. And let's see what else we want to do. Okay. Just another note before we get moving. In December, CHASEN did a Giving Tree project. And we were very blessed to get some really nice donations. And we worked with Woodside K through 8, and they provided some families for us. We worked with Sunrise Point, another family there. We had a couple of the children from one of the local churches. And then we were able to also give to some of the elderly. And it was just a great opportunity for us. And so if you're here, you contributed. Thank you very much. It was a very successful program. At this time, I'd like to turn the time over to our new, or I should say returning impact officer, Lieutenant Wesley Herman. And he's going to do a short report for us.
Thanks, Bill. I thought you were going to actually say that I was going to do a dance or some sort of. So I'm relieved I don't have to do that. That actually did happen to me once, but that's another story for another day. I am a Michael Jackson fan, but I don't dance like him, unfortunately. So thank you all for having me here. It's my honor and my pleasure. 789 is one of the absolute most incredible neighborhood areas that I think we have in our city. Huge turnout here tonight, probably 75 folks here. As Bill said, my name is Lieutenant Wes Herman. I've been with the police department since 2008. I worked in the private sector for about 13 years before I joined the police department. I have family that lives in town. I feel a strong sense of closeness to this community. I'm currently our investigations lieutenant. I oversee our team of impact detectives and also our general investigations unit. I'm also responsible for our organized retail theft grant, which we received last year, about $2.75 million over 3 years. So I know we have a longer format tonight, and I don't want to take away from our speaker, looks like just joined us. But I'm happy to kind of just tell you a little bit about some of the things that happened in December with our retail theft initiatives. We can certainly do questions. I can always do that next month as well.
Go ahead and take some.
I'll take a few questions today, but some of you who have been here in the past know Lieutenant Bill Dunning. That's my partner. He's here in the back of the room. He was overseeing NA 789 in the past, and we recently, inside the department, separated out our investigations unit and our quality of life unit, and we created our POP unit again. We did have that in the past. Our impact detectives were working under my authority, I suppose, the chief's authority ultimately. And then we have now pulled that out, and so they're working for Lieutenant Bill Dunning. So 2 of our impact detectives went over there. They're now POP detectives, but their mission in terms of focusing on quality of life issues, homelessness, blight, repeat chronic nuisance offenders, that has not changed. So happy to answer any questions on that. But you know, as it relates to retail theft, you've noticed a few things around the city that we've done. You've probably seen some of our posts on blitz operations that we've done where we use undercover officers inside retail establishments, hoping that if there is a theft that's going to occur, that it occurs while we're there, so that we can take necessary action. Prop 36 passed. That was a resounding vote here in California. I think it was around 70%, and that has given us some tools back to be able to hold repeat offenders accountable through the criminal justice system if they're found guilty. So we do have several folks that we have encountered since that bill passed that are kind of going that track. Sacramento County is working on that. It's still early to see how that plays out in terms of what sentencing they give. The goal is obviously rehabilitation, and that law is specifically aimed at trying to bring drug offenders into drug treatment and to bring repeat theft offenders into some sort of compliance where they're not looking to steal from our businesses and our community. So I can pause there. We did probably, if I were guessing, we did probably 4 or 5 different retail theft initiatives, blitz operations in the Sunrise Mall marketplace over the period of like 3 or 4 months. We do those both in conjunction with CHP. They have a team, a task force that does that. Our impact detectives also work with them. We worked with some of our outside agency partners as well, because as you might imagine, it takes a fair number of both plainclothed and patrol uniforms to be able to make that happen. So I'll just pause there. Any questions that anybody has? I think people probably have also seen our trailers. We bought some of those trailers. We bought 3 of those trailers on our retail theft grant. And so again, those were designed to put in kind of high crime areas. They are monitored and recording 24/7. So there's a series of cameras on those. They have solar panels on them to keep them running, so they don't need electricity. And like I said, we've got 3 of those. We move those around the city based on kind of what the needs are, based on crime trends and things we're seeing. So I'll pause there. Are there any questions that I can answer? Again, happy to do a longer format with you guys in the future. I want to respect Ethan Conrad's time, who joined us, but if you guys have any questions about retail theft or investigations, maybe you want to know what happened with the JCPenney's guy that drove through the mall, happy to answer any of those. Yes, okay. Yeah, so I mean, we're still investigating that. We do have the suspect identified. We do have him in custody. He actually was wanted in several thefts throughout the county and in Placer County, so we've been working with our partners on that as well. But I'm happy to say that our investigators identified him. He's in custody, and we're just finalizing the stages on our case. As chance would have it, he actually was he was out on bail for having committed a burglary at JCPenney's here in Citrus Heights just a couple months earlier. So we didn't have to look too far, and but that was that story.
Your cameras.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. The flock trailer, there's a couple different camera options. I mentioned the mobile trailer cameras, but we also have flock cameras throughout the city. You probably have seen some of those on light poles. They have like a tiny little solar panel on them. They're license plate readers, and they're not recording live video. They're taking screenshots of vehicles that pass by, and primarily what we're looking for is stolen vehicles or felony wanted vehicles. They've been very successful. They're being deployed throughout the state, throughout the country, and I think when we're all said and done, we'll have quite a few of those here in Citrus Heights. You'll have a hard time kind of getting in and out of the city without being seen by one of those cameras, but that's the goal. Long term, those were all grant funded as well. Long term, as it relates to how we fund those, we'll have to take a hard look at how many we have deployed at the end of that period, because we probably won't keep the same number we have now. But we'll have a good look for the next 3 years on which ones are working well and which ones we want to keep. Yes?
Is that information shared with other entities?
It's shared with other law enforcement agencies, but you bring up a good point. So when this all started, we kind of talked about a public-private partnership on these. And long before we spent any tax dollars, which we still haven't spent because it was grant funded, but long before we asked the city to finance any of those, we went out to the community and asked our community businesses and churches and mobile home parks, is this important to you to have as a tool to help us solve crime? They said resoundingly yes. So we have right now about, I think it's 20 privately funded cameras in the city. Stone's being the largest. I think they have 5 cameras now. But so they can share their data with us as it relates to law enforcement inquiries, but law enforcement doesn't share law enforcement sensitive information back out. We do share with other law enforcement agencies though. That's a good question. All right, I don't see any other questions. I'm off the hook easy this time. Thank you all very much for having me here. I'm looking forward to the rest of the evening and looking forward to being here.
Thank you. Okay, well, Brian, where am I going? Okay, Ethan? Okay.
Would you want to start first?
Okay.
We're gonna adjust this a little bit.
Adjust it, okay.
Yeah.
Well, once, thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
And I think you'll have enough questions at the end. And after they're finished with their presentation, we're gonna have 2 mics going around. And so raise your hand, wait till you're called on, and we'll hand you a mic. And just please ask one question or maybe just a short follow-up. But there's plenty of you, I'm sure, that wanna make comments tonight after you see. And they're here to get your response and your you know, how you feel about their proposal. And this can go back to the city too. So it's not only for their benefit, it's for the cities. So we'd like to get as many of you as possible to be able to participate. And so, you know, make sure your questions are short, concise, and after they're finished, somebody else will raise their hand, we'll acknowledge them and move around the room. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction. Hi, I'm Ethan Conrad, owner of Ethan Conrad Properties, and give me 1 second because we'll get situated here, right? So I won't be looking back at me all the time. Okay, so thank you all for coming tonight, appreciate it. So what we, just as a baseline on this, because it seems like there might be, this is probably a big question, is all we're proposing with this specific plan amendment, the only thing we're proposing is that the specific plan be a little less restrictive on logical retail uses. That's it. So that logical retail uses would be allowed under the specific plan, where some of them are not currently.
Could you speak up?
Yeah.
Is that better?
There.
Okay.
Better.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll repeat that part. So all we're proposing with the specific plan amendment is that logical retail uses be allowed or not be prohibited per the current specific plan. So, for example, the specific plan currently would not allow a home improvement retailer like Home Depot, and does not allow any drive-throughs at all, like in and out. So that's our proposal, is that we are relaxing those rules a bit, subject to the City of Citrus Heights approval. So tenants would have to go through whatever permit process, whatever conditional use permit process, etc. So with that, I'll start, but that's probably the most important thing that we've gotten a few questions about, is that one point. So with that said, so what, we're Ethan Conrad Properties, we own about 11 million square feet. We specialize in buying properties like Sunrise Mall that are declining, that have vacancy issues, and we put good tenants in them. So basically, we've done this literally hundreds of times on similar properties. Most of them not as big as this one, but we've done it with numerous other properties, and have done well with it and benefited those communities. So the current status of Sunrise Mall, as you know, it's almost dead. I mean, it is literally, when Macy's closes the 2 stores, which is scheduled to be in the next 2 or 3 months, it will, on all intents and purposes, die. I mean, all we'll be left with is a JCPenney and a couple shop space, and that'll be it. And it'll probably, JCPenney will close thereafter. So I talked about that, so it's good. So it's probably going to be considered, you know, a dead mall here, literally within the next 3 months or thereabouts. So what's a dead mall? We've seen pictures of them. You may have very well seen the one in Woodland, but there's been numerous dead malls, and it's certainly not a good thing to have, especially at your main highest traffic intersection in the city. That mall is very close to dead. So again, our proposal is for the Sunrise tomorrow at the evolution of that specific plan, which again is to allow logical retail uses subject to the City of Citrus Heights ordinances. So there's here's another important point. So our company owns or controls basically the southern 25 acres of the property, which is the former Sears, and that's what we see on this phase 1. which by the way, it's a little washed out, but hopefully you can see that reasonably well.
Yeah.
So the southern 25 acres, that's our phase 1. That's what we have tenants interested in leasing currently. That is what we're most focused on now. So those tenants is Home Depot, In-N-Out, Judy's Cleaners. We have a proposal from Chick-fil-A. Those would be the tenants in that southern 25 acres. We don't have plans yet for the northern approximately 50 acres more, but this relaxing of the, allowing these logical retail uses would affect both phases of the property. But phase 1 is the one we're focused on now. So that shows phase 2, and we don't have a site plan yet for it. We've got interested tenants, but we're not really focused on it because we don't own the property yet. So as far as potential tenants, there's a number of them here listed, but Dick's Sporting Goods, IKEA, Bolero. We do have a proposal with Bolero for the former Sears building. Turner's Outdoorsman, BJ's is interested in the former Elephant Bar, and we've got a variety of logical retail tenants for the center.
Great.
So I talked a little bit about the specific tenants. So Home Depot, Home Depot literally is going to be at this property for 10 years, literally. And they will be a phenomenal tenant. Well, I'll be an owner. I'll be selling them land for them to build a state-of-the-art Home Depot. In-N-Out, again, top of the food chain. I think everyone loves an In-N-Out burger, and people are driving too far to have to go get an In-N-Out to the nearest In-N-Out. So that's, having these logical retail uses closer makes sense. Sunrise Montessori School, their permit's already been issued. They're really not part of this relaxing the retail zoning because their use is allowed. So we're actually doing their tenant improvements right now. Be a good addition to the property. Judy's Cleaners, this is a division of that company. Judy's Cleaners has been in the Central Sites area, I think, for over 50 years. I sold them the building that they're in now, and this would be sort of a ancillary businesses that would be good complementary businesses. So community engagement, that's what we're doing now. We're communicating with the communities and picking up logical feedback. We do have a website set up, and we're certainly welcome whatever tenants that you think would be great tenants that would be benefit the city of Citrus Heights. We're interested in knowing them. As far as experience on other properties, this is probably a really important component, and that is that we've done similar things with other mall properties and done so successfully. So we own the property in Yuba City, the mall there. We've done very well with that. Chico Marketplace, same thing. That mall's done quite well. Same thing with Merced. We recently bought Merced Mall, converted to Merced Marketplace in Merced, and done a lot of deals there pretty quickly. So this shows Yuba Sutter. Literally, it's been about a 40% increase in sales since we purchased the property. Put a lot of new tenants in there and increased the sales and done really well for the community there. Same thing with Chico. About a 50% increase in the sales since we purchased the property. We're talking about tenant sales, so that's the amount of merchandise that they're selling. Done very well there. And gotten certificates of commendation from both cities, from both Chico and Yuba City, based on the cities being so happy with what we did. We basically took dying mall properties and leased them up with great tenants, which were then a benefit for the communities. So there was, with the Sunrise Tomorrow plan, there's 5 big ideas. We've addressed all of them here. And so we're basically making sure that we're addressing all the important components of the Sunrise Tomorrow plan. So Sunrise Tomorrow Evolution, again, all we're really proposing on this is, or all we are proposing, is that, that the restrictions that be loosened a little to allow logical retail tenants. And that's it. Thank you for having us. Appreciate everyone taking the time to be here. And I guess we should open up for questions. Yes.
Looks pretty basic from just the layout plan of 25 acres. But I mean, you guys can't do something similar. I mean, we're surrounded by Roseville, Folsom, you know, and I mean, Citrus Heights is small areas, right? I mean, you know, but you look at these other cities and they do, you know, they have like a flair, you know, with them and what they provide, you know, these Palisades. You guys can't create something that's similar to that? I mean, I like the Bolero, you know, I like that. I mean, you got in and out, and that's fine, but can you, I mean, this is Citrus Heights, you know, and, you know, we're surrounded, like I said, by, you know, we got Fair Oaks, we got Orangeville, we got Carmichael, we got North Highlands, Roseville, you know. A lot of us gotta go to Roseville, and we're helping Placer County and their pockets. Why can't those people come and help out Citrus Heights in our pockets? So, you know, I mean, can we get something that people want to go to? I mean, because, I mean, again, this is just phase one, I understand it, but just from looking at it, I mean, Citrus Heights is going to have turnover with people. You know, current people that have lived here all their lives, people moving in. And we want something, you know, I feel for myself and, you know, living here, I've lived here for 15 years and, you know, I remember I grew up in North Highlands and coming to, you know, Sunrise Mall and Birdcage back then, you know, back in the day. But I mean, you see all these different places. You know, I mean, retail's fine. I mean, I get it. That's what you want. But can we get, you know, something like Gladio or Fountains? You know, I want to like let's come out on a Friday night and hang out there. You know, or on Saturday night. You know, instead of just not doing anything. You know, give my money back into the community.
So listen, I love nice places. I'm a private ownership owner, okay? So if you drive by any of the properties that I own, the company owns, we take good care of them. We're private ownership. I'm a local owner. I care. I like nice stuff. I like nice properties, okay? So here's a super, super important point. The current specific plan, it looks beautiful. I don't doubt, I think it looks great. But it's not economically viable. If we don't change it, that mall's gonna die. And it's just gonna sit there. And then it's gonna sit there until somebody allows the plan to be changed. So back to your point, let's answer your question. Okay, so here's how this game's played. You get what's called an anchor tenant. In this case, Home Depot. Guess what? We get Home Depot approved, we can then get more selective with every tenant that follows. If we don't have Home Depot, guess what? Bolero, which is Lucky Strike, it's a 50,000 square foot state-of-the-art bowling alley. They have said they do not want to be here. So the first thing we have to do is if we get Home Depot there, we get that approved, then that makes everything follow, right? And then we can start with that, and that's the driver, that's the anchor, right? And then in phase two, we can be more selective with our tenants, and we can be, and I'm not saying we're not being selective. I mean, In-N-Out and Chick-fil-A and Home Depot and Lucky Strike, those are all first-class tenants. Those nationally, those are the top tier of tenants. Like, if you said to anyone, what's the nicest home retailer in the world? It's Home Depot. Who's the best, who's the nicest drive-through? It's an In-N-Out. I mean, those are the great tenants, okay? But having those is the way that you then make the whole thing work because of that. Because when you have these anchor tenants, they're all, they flock together, right? So if you get one of them that's a big one, like Home Depot, then all the other anchor tenants, all the other national tenants are like, well, Home Depot's there. This is a phenomenal property because Home Depot never chooses anything less than a Class A property.
Well, I mean, you got Antelope over there and Home Depot's over there, so
within reason, though. I mean, within reason. Okay, so there's exceptions to everything, but that's how this game's played. That you get that first big tenants, like Home Depot mainly, and the rest will follow. So, and I would say this. everything has to be for the city of Citrus Heights. Their codes and their use permits and their building permits and their planning department, all that stuff. So allowing this specific plan to be a little more flexible in the uses is the way that it happens, and the mall doesn't die, or at least part of it may die, but we'll have a regrowth there.
So are you saying keeping the building?
So,
One question, please. There's others here.
Sorry.
yeah, so that's probably a good generic question though. So we're trying to keep as much of the buildings as we can, because here's the thing, it has to be economically viable. Like, I could say, okay, I'm gonna build, a 50-story Four Seasons hotel with 50 acres of beautiful landscaping, right? Okay, well, who wouldn't want that? That'd be beautiful. But if nobody's gonna build it, if it's not economically viable, it sits there and it never gets built. So what I'm talking about is something that'll actually get done, like not only in a lifetime, but like in the next year or two. And then it'll all follow. So.
Can you clarify, my case of freelance?
Hold on, Mike.
Thank you. Mike Hazlett, freelance journalist. I write for the Sentinel. Can you clarify what you mean by logical tenants? What exactly is logical, or logical
That's
use?
Good question. Okay, so by relaxing the allowed uses, making them a little more flexible, it's tenants that would have been originally allowed, their uses would have been allowed under the zoning before the specific plan was put in place. So for example, like Home Depot. Home Depot would have been allowed when it was Sunrise Mall, before the specific plan came along, it would be a use that was allowed. Drive-thrus were allowed, things of that nature. So it's not introducing something that's, let's call it a use that might not be good. It's all logical retail uses, which are driven by the market and driven by, the city of Citrus Heights allowing it. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'll probably have follow-up questions.
Okay.
Only one.
Nice to meet you. All right. Oh, go ahead.
Can you tell me what criteria you use when you're trying to identify what would be a good ad for the community?
That's a good question. So most of these tenants are market driven, right? So let's just say Home Depot, for example. Okay, but in any of these national tenants, they determine where there's market demand. So they do they call it like a market, a sales analysis. They determine where there's market demand, where the community wants that retailer to be there. So that's the main driver. There's also, there's a bit of an art to it in terms of having tenants that are complementary tenants, because like a retail center, in a perfect world, you've got this mix of tenants that are all desirable to the community, but they all complement each other, right? Because that way, for the person that's going to the grocery store, they go to the cleaners, or they go to other different tenants that are all conveniently located that then are what the market demands. So that's the goal. By the way, the reason why the city of Chico and Yuba City, why they both get it was basically awards for remodeling those malls and putting new tenants in there. It's because we ended up with a really good mix of tenants. So in that case, like the mall in Yuba City, we did a deal with Hobby Lobby, and Hobby Lobby was like, it was like 900 Facebook likes within like a day. Okay, well, I actually enjoy that. I think it's great because it's like bringing something to the community that the community is really excited about. We did Raising Cane's. I think I've done 5 Raising Cane's deal, but the one in Chico, when it opened about a week ago, literally there was like, what they had, and we did it right. We figured out how to make it so that their grand opening with their cars, they all stayed in the parking lot. Nobody spilled out onto the road, so it didn't cause any sort of hazard. But with that one, I think it was like over 1,000 Facebook likes inside of like 2 days when that deal was announced. And that feels pretty good. I mean, there's obviously a demand there, and it's satisfying that demand, which is the goal. I mean, that's what retail's supposed to do.
Tom Sullivan, Citrus Heights Messenger. I understand that NAMDAR owns the big chunk of what's dying or dead, nearly dead. What conversations, if any, is Conrad having with NAMDAR as far as the redevelopment? Because it looks like with the restaurant, fast food row along that side, that it doesn't really solve the problem for the mall. Is there any conversation between NAMDAR and yourself, or selling portions, or NAMDAR selling any portions of this?
So I'm in escrow to purchase the 50 acres from NAMDAR. So that what they own now, I'm in escrow to buy. I've got a right to peel out just the land that I need, the additional land to do the Home Depot deal. That's phase one. And then the other, you could call it 45 acres, the northern 45 acres I'm in escrow to purchase. By the way, you know, I'm friends with the guys at NAMDAR, but they'll probably tell you this. I'm the polar opposite of NAMDAR. I like making my properties better and putting good tenants in there, whereas NAMDAR, their business model is to kind of let their properties decay. They spin off chunks of them and they let them decay. And that's, I mean, I've got a good rapport with those guys. I'll probably tell you the same thing, but from a, let's call it from a business plan perspective, I'm the polar opposite of NAMDAR. I would have never, I actually almost bought Sunrise Mall before they did, and I would have never let it go like they did.
Could you still do that if you wanted to?
Could I still buy? I mean, that's where to buy it from them, but what's too bad about what they did is they let it go too far, right? So it's harder, it requires a lot more money and a lot more creativity to then make that northern portion of the mall successful, because it's going to be bigger boxes and more money and so forth. I would have never let it go like that. It didn't. They could have maintained it better. They could have leased portions of it and so forth. But it's past. It's history.
If anyone wants to follow up on that, they're welcome to. That was the leading question I had, because that concerned me with what I heard about it. Thank you.
I'm concerned about your comment that the existing plan that the city developed and has in place is not economically viable. If it's not economically viable the way it was proposed and approved, what needs to be done, what has to happen to change that so we can make it economically viable?
That's a good question. Okay, so when that plan was developed, but things have changed, right? We went through COVID, right? So I'm gonna give you one component of it that I think will resonate. Okay, and that is this. So with that plan, there's a fair amount of office buildings being built. Well, guess what? Office buildings are selling for like 20 cents on the dollar. Like nobody would ever build an office building today, right? Why? Because we went through COVID, so all these people working from home, there's office vacancies. I mean, I'm buying office buildings, okay, but I'm buying them with like 10 to 20 cents on the dollar. Like, they're practically free. Okay, so nobody would ever build that. So that portion of the case, if you just look at that component, that needs to be changed. Mainly what needs to happen is that specific plan needs to allow logical retail uses. That's the only component that we're talking about here. That's the only component of our plan. It's just to say, hey, if Home Depot wants to come here, this use is allowed. And when they wrote the plan, for example, on that point, they wrote it so that it said no home products retailers or home improvement stores would be allowed. Well, I think what they were thinking of was like a lumber yard, right? Well, a lumber yard wouldn't be a good use there, right? You know, trucks and that's not Home Depot, right? But when they wrote it in such a way they didn't allow Home Depot, which I almost think is like an accident. I know who wouldn't want a Home Depot. But that's what needs to happen in the plan, is just make it so it allows logical retail uses.
Keep it short. Yes, my name is Stan. 1980s, I ran that JCPenney store. You don't dare close it.
I'd love to keep it open. I've got JCPenney in 4 properties.
All right.
I'd like to keep it open.
That's so important to me, I'll come after you.
With my plan, with what I'm proposing, it would be a way to keep the JCPenney store open.
The real question I have is, we need an entertainment center like Folsom College, there's an entertainment center up there.
Yes.
Where you can have a bowling alley, a game center, maybe a 200-seat theater, where entertainment can be brought into the city. In other words, keep them in town, not go to Folsom to go get entertainment. So it's halfway that way anyway. Are you planning on taking that old Sears building and making it, my proposal to you is make it an entertainment center for a theater, little theater, bowling, that's what we need, a movie house. Don't let our people go somewhere else.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think you're 100% right. So what, and let me kind of recap on this. So I have a deal right now, I have an LOI, letter of intent, with Bolero, Lucky Strike, which is the basically nationally, I think it's the largest national retail state-of-the-art bowling alley, which they're more of entertainment centers now than anything else. They're like a Dave & Buster's almost. You know, they've got like a bar component, restaurant component, everything's nice, everything's state-of-the-art. It's meant to be like a fun center almost, okay? So I have a deal with them. We're about 3/4 of the way reaching agreement on LOI. They put it on hold, that deal, until 2 things happen. One, the city of Citrus Heights allowed what I'm asking for, okay, 1. 2, Home Depot then says, okay, good, which I'm in escrow with Home Depot, but then they move things forward because of the city of Citrus Heights, you guys approving the loud uses, loud and logical uses. And then what'll happen is, once that Bolero deal happens, that will lead the way to a theater deal, right? Because people then see it as more of an entertainment destination, right? And then that will push it all forward. But having a Bolero there, first having Home Depot, then a Bolero, and then that leads the way to a theater deal. But there'll be other entertainment uses that will follow Bolero. And that's how this game's played. That's how these retail deals happen. Is you get one big one, and then you kind of get a snowball going, and then with that you let it grow.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, I had a question on, I thought I heard a rumor that there was gonna be like a mixed use of that property, living, entertainment, shopping, that kind of thing. And the second thing is, if we like your ideas, how do we support them as a community?
Good questions. Okay, so there is a mixed-use component. So we have a portion of the property earmarked for multifamily, which is part of the specific plan already. So that's really not a change. It's more of a carrying out what the original vision was. In fact, you can see that. You can see it. Well, it's in the top left-hand corner, toward the middle, where it's in blue. That's an area that we've earmarked for multifamily.
Right next to the apartments that are already behind it.
It would be to the south. It's across that, what they call it, the ring road.
And then, but you said you're not going to tear down that building, though, right?
So the Sears building is a good building. So that one, like for example, the plan with Bolero, we've laid out the lanes so that it functions without having to remove any columns. That's a big thing. So the way that layout that works. There's two other entertainment uses that are interested in being in the same building with Bolero. But again, if you get Bolero, first you get Home Depot, then you get Bolero, and then you get these other uses to follow.
Perfect.
I have a question about the location of the Home Depot. That's where all the residential butts up against your Sunrise Mall. And what is that gonna do with traffic and noise?
So, good question. So Home Depot, across the country, a number of their locations are near residential or back up to residential. And the way that they lay out the site, they have the way that the dock lays out, the loading dock, it runs, let's call it perpendicular versus parallel to the residential. So there's a wall that basically makes it so that, they call it a sound wall. But basically, the way that they would design it, it makes it so that it does not, it's not like there's noise that the neighbors would hear. It's not like they'd be getting deliveries all different times of night and so forth. That's something that they're very sensitive to, and that will be addressed. Not only it'll be addressed in multiple levels. The first level, by the way, is just allowing the specific plan to be amended a bit, so that it allows the use. Then it goes to what's the design, right? And then that design, we make sure it doesn't cause a problem for the neighbors.
Hi. Macy's is becoming vacant, and a couple of the other big box stores have left. Is your company thinking about purchasing those as well and developing them?
Which stores?
Macy's.
Oh, so we're in escrow right now to buy the 50 acres that includes Macy's.
Great.
Both Macy's stores.
Good.
Hi, my name is Robin, and I'm fairly new to this area, although I visited it because I had relatives here. Came every year to do my Christmas shopping at Sunrise Mall up from Humboldt County. So I've been here a lot. But the one thing, and so I don't know Citrus Heights real well, so I may be ignorant here, but I was agreeing here with this. I mean, Bolero, yeah, that's cool. Very expensive for a family. I've been to Bolero. I couldn't have afforded to take my family there. But I'm looking for more, will there be cultural type things? I'm looking, as much as gentlemen maybe did, a place for community theater, a place for, I mean, I love Texas Roadhouse, but sometimes you want to go to a little bit more fancy eating establishment. Just things, art galleries, something that makes it feel like a downtown, sort of. Do we have a community kind of component as opposed to Bolero, that's gonna go in? I mean, I get that retail drives the money, and that's, you need the money. I mean, you don't invest in properties to lose money. And so you need the retail to generate the funds, and I'm happy those will generate funds for Citrus Heights. But I'm also looking for more community cultural type things that could be included. So I was curious if there's anything in the plans for that.
So again, but good question. So the first step on this, let me put it this way. Yes, there's a component of having the uses that you've described, right? The first step though is relaxing, basically allowing logical retail uses so that this phase one can happen. And then with phase two, you're gonna see more like we have an open area, for like concerts and things of that nature.
Yes.
But we're not quite there yet, but that's what you'll see. So in other words, the first step though is making it so that logical retail uses are allowed. Because if we don't have that, it's all gonna die, okay? So that's the first step, but you'll see more things unfolding. I could have a plan that has a bunch of pretty pictures and stuff like that, but honestly, we're not quite there yet. The first step is allowing the logical retail uses under the zoning.
So Home Depot is basically the only thing. If we don't go with Home Depot, none of this happens. That's what we sound like.
Well, I'm not even asking for an approval on Home Depot now, okay? All I'm saying is the specific plan amendment, again, is just allowing logical retail uses. And, I guess you could say that having Home Depot, like I've said several times, that's the driver. That's how you get something like this going. Otherwise, what happens is you get nothing. You get a dead mall.
Or you build it and they will come.
No.
If you look at like Folsom and Roseville, those places are smaller compared to this, but they were able to fill those out because the community, like she mentioned, we are Citrus Heights. We got Orangeville right next to us. We got these places. I hate going down 80 to go to, you know, Roseville and stuff, and I'm pretty sure everybody else, like, we would love to shop and give our money back to our own neighborhood. You know, I mean, you talk about the school, San Juan ain't nothing, you know, I mean, CASA is old as heck and it's falling apart, but I mean, it's a good school, you know, my son goes there. But I'm just saying, we want money in our own pot, like, back in our community, that's the thing, and I know I'm speaking so many times, but it's just frustrating because I don't like to feel, and I'm a business owner myself, I don't like this to be hung up on something where, you know, and I get it, you gotta take pieces.
One
Yeah.
step at a time.
Okay, so let me just wrap up your comments really quick, we'll go to somebody else, but, to answer your question, again, we need to relax the zoning a little bit, allow these logical retail uses, allow Home Depot, and then that's what starts the ball rolling. And then we can have more stores.
Good evening. My name is Jen, and I own a business that is currently inside of the Sunrise Mall. I would love to take this opportunity to tell you that there is live theater inside the Sunrise Mall. If you venture in on the northern end, right by Macy's, we do have community theater there. Please join us. We have shows coming up. Talk to me after if you'd like details. What I would like to know is, for those of us that are currently in the Sunrise Mall and have stuck it out and we're still there, are you familiar with the companies that are currently in the mall? And if all of this goes through and then you are able to purchase our side of the mall, where I think more of the companies that are still open exist, what does that look like for those of us that have been there? Is our rent going to jump, skyrocket up high? You know, I just want to know, like, are you wanting to keep the people that are already in there still in there, and what does that look like for us going forward?
Yeah, good questions. So, I mean, I guess I should answer it like this. So with the other malls I own, we've kept lots of local tenants in there. I mean, I don't like losing tenants. I like, you know, figuring out a way to make things work for them.
Yes.
And a lot of them, you know, we're on percentage rent deals so that their sales go up because there's now better stores there and they can pay a little more rent, but it's a percentage of their sales. So I'm sort of like a partner with them. I mean, I've done lots of deals like that. I actually, you know, like if it was up to me, like I said earlier, this other gentleman, if I had bought that property when it sold, whatever it was, 5 years ago, I would have kept all those tenants in there and like improve the property without losing tenants. I mean, that's what I like to do. I like making our properties better, like, you know, and keeping tenants there. And I like that. I don't like losing tenants and having properties decay. It bothers me.
We're a non-profit. There are no sales.
Okay.
So
But you
can see why we're a little concerned.
Yeah, I wouldn't, listen, I like working with people and figuring out win-win deals, okay? We do over 700 deals a year. So you could say I'm kind of a deal junkie, like I like figuring out ways to make things work and have it be a win-win.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Sarah. I'm with the Certified Sentinel, and I had been reading your amendment plan, and I'm concerned about the removing the restriction, basically for taking away all the open space requirements. So in the future plans of beyond phase 1, would there be some kind of walkability structure to create walkability throughout the entire property line, which is pretty much what everybody's asking for when you think about the fountains, when you think about the Paladeo and Folsom and River Park and Fresno, which is one of my favorites. They have a very nice walkability structure throughout the entire property that connects every single business so that you can have Friday night walk, what they do, what they have at the fountains throughout the summer. So is there some kind of plan for that kind of feature in future phases?
So, by the way, to address one point you mentioned, like, you know, not having any more open space, that's not part of our plan. That's not part of what we're proposing. I saw that as a misquote, but yeah, that's the only thing we're proposing is allowing logical retail uses, that's it. Okay, but to answer your question, yeah, I mean, the goal would be to have something that was walkable. That would be the goal. And having, I mean, let's put it this way. I think I enjoy making properties better, making them successful. That's fun. It's a fun challenge, right? So that would be the goal, is to have the property be walkable and have it be successful and have it have the right tenants there, the right tenant mix. That's what the community is looking for. That's what that's a win-win. That's what my goal would be, and the retailer's goal would be as well. I mean, they're investing. Take Home Depot. I mean, they're assuming that this comes to fruition. I mean, they'll invest over $40 million in that property. I think it's close to, actually, it's over 50 million. Sorry. They're taking a big risk there, right? But they're doing that because they've determined this is a successful location.
Hi there. My name is Jamie, and I was one of the original design people of the Sunrise Mall when it first opened. And so my heart pings for the Sunrise Mall. My question is, when you say logical retail uses, somebody's definition could be different in each one of these chairs around here. And if we take our specific plan that we've already spent money on and designed, and for it to be one of an upscale retail place, mixed use with all those uses that is already planned. A hotel, I'm not quite sure what we do with a hotel, but anyway, I love what the rest of it is. With all due respect, to put the fast food restaurants in as a first choice, to me, and I should choose my words better, but it just cheapens the entire effort. Home Depot, I'm good with Home Depot, but we do not, in my opinion, need one more fast food restaurant, especially across the street. There's a whole row of them. Yep. You know, I would love to go and have a casual glass of wine in a place where I feel safe to go to, not, I love neighborhood bars and restaurants, that's fine, but I would love to have just a little bit higher end, and to me, that's what was originally proposed.
So to answer your question, so I don't control market demand. So really, you know, I mean, it's okay. Would I love to have all super high-end stores? You know, that was, yes, and they usually pay a higher rent, right? But I can't control that, right? So one super important item that we need to keep in mind is that these market conditions, the demographics, the age of the people, how much money they make, all these things about the people that surround the property is what dictates what retailers are there. These are not factors I control, okay? I can't say like, oh gosh, let's, you know, we're gonna have all super high-end stores, high-end restaurants, or what. Okay, that's not something I dictate. That's market demand. That's what the demographics dictate what retailers will be there that's successful. Okay, so to give you an example, so let's take In-N-Out and Chick-fil-A. Let's take those two, for example. And they have determined that there is huge demand there for those restaurants, for their particular restaurants, and they're willing to risk millions of dollars buying a property, building there, having all that, doing all that stuff, because they've determined that that's what the consumers in that area want. So it's satisfying consumer demand. I might personally decide I like a different restaurant more. I might like your wine restaurant or whatever, like, okay? But that isn't what dictates it. It's what dictates is market demand.
I understand.
And that demographics. Okay, so that's really what it is. So, but again, what happens on these deals is once you get a driver like Home Depot and you get like you you get the best retailers there, In and Out, Chick-fil-A, etc. That's what makes the synergy, that makes the whole property be successful, and it makes it so you can be consecutively a little more choosy on the following tenants as you go. In a perfect world, a landlord has 2 or 3 proposals from multiple tenants that are good tenants for each space, and they choose the best one. But to get there, you first have to have the anchor. You gotta have the Home Depot.
You know, the only, the main comment I have with that theory, if you will, is that there is more than likely, I believe, Chicopee and In and Out, that they think that they need to be in the center of our town. And they probably do. But they could go across the street. And it, I'm afraid that our community is not going to be taken seriously as to what, I mean, we spent millions of dollars on the specific plans, and that's what the community wanted, and it wasn't drive-through restaurants. So I just think it's easy, I hate to say this, but easy for you and not easy for the community.
Well, let me say one really important thing, and we'll move on to someone else. But here's probably maybe one of the most important things I can tell you tonight. There is no demand, no developer. There's nobody who wants to do what that specific plan shows. Nobody wants it. No developer is willing to take the economic risk because it doesn't quite make sense. So if you have something that's not, if you don't have something that there's no demand for, no developer is interested in doing it, and they've been trying to pitch it to developers for the last like 6 years, right? And nobody wants to do it. No one looks at it and says, this plan is not good. That's what, in the commercial real estate world, people looking at this existing specific plan, people look at it and go, this doesn't make sense. It needs to be changed. It needs to be modified. It needs to be made so that logical retail uses are allowed. And by the way, logical retail uses are very specifically described in the amendment. I'm simplifying it right now. But that's probably the most important thing to think about, is that it's not like you have option A to build out the specific plan like it exactly was, and option B is that what I'm proposing of changing it a bit, there is no option A. Nobody's interested in doing what that specific plan shows. Nobody.
Hi, I'm Alex Torres. I kind of concerned with the plan because it's just, there's an underlying concern with the mall in general. I think that there's a lot of competition with nearby malls and developments that really I could drive like 10 or 15 minutes and get the same exact thing that you're proposing. And you know, putting all these anchor stores in here, those stores come and go. And I think that, like, especially people my generation, we buy so much stuff online. I think that this isn't really forward thinking. And you know, with all the fast food restaurants, there's previously problems with the city. You know, they had issues with traffic, like when Raising Cane's came in. And I think just adding 8 more fast food restaurants, I think that really caused an issue. And I mean, same with adding Home Depot. There's a Lowe's across the street. So I think we should have a plan that, you know, makes this area unique, because, you know, we're gonna be stuck with this for a long time. So I think, you know, I wish we could do it right, and, you know, yeah.
So to answer your question, so again, these things aren't dictated by me. I can't, they're dictated by, in America, it's a free enterprise system, right? So that means that the retailers themselves, they determine where market demand is, and they determine what stores people in that community want to shop at, and they're then willing to take that economic risk of building that store based on the market demand. So that's sort of the economics of retail. I don't, you know, again, I can't say, well, I want to pick these, I want these stores here, or I want it to look exactly this way, because it's driven by the market, not by me. So what I'm proposing is something that actually get built, actually happen. Whereas if we don't, with the current plan, it'll never get built. We'll watch them all decay, And then somebody, whatever, 3 years or 5 years down the road, someone will say, hey, maybe we should do what Ethan said and allow these retail uses to be relaxed, logical retail uses to be allowed. And then, then you'll have a dead mall for a while until those changes come along. And that's just, again, that's market demand. It's not, I can't control these things. It's what the market and the demographics support. Those retailers, that's who wants to be there. Which are good tenants. I mean, Home Depot's top of the food chain, and so is In-N-Out.
One more question.
Wrapping it up here, make it count. I see that the Home Depot there is right where my kids have learned to drive, so the future generations, where are they gonna do that? I think the message here is that we need to reset our expectations of what this project is. I don't want to speak for everybody in the room here, but we see that the city of Citrus Heights has this gift here at Sunrise Mall. And there's some fast food in here that's interesting, but we're talking about building something in the next couple of years, right? In the next year or two, and that's new, that's shiny, that brings people here. And this is one phase out of 4 or 5 potential phases here?
Two big ones, but yeah.
2 big ones, okay. You had mentioned IKEA, and I guess this comes to my question here. Is there was an interest in IKEA, and where would that go? What phase would that be? And what does that do with traffic in the area?
IKEA would most logically go into one of the Macy's. So you take and that's where I say, like, you try, the way you play this game is you try to use the existing boxes, the existing buildings, because it saves so much money. And in this world, how would you like the existing, by the way, the existing specific plan shows demoing everything, everything, which is like, okay.
Way too expensive.
It's a waste, and guess what? It makes it so it's not economically viable. That's why no developers have been interested in building what the specific plan shows, because it doesn't make sense. Okay, maybe I'm being a little blunt here, but that's the honest, honestly, that's how it is. It doesn't make any economic sense. No one will ever build it. It'll die, and then it'll, and then they'll relax the zoning years from now after you guys have a dead mall there for a while. Okay, so back to your question. So IKEA, the way you play this game is we get Home Depot there, we get these other retailers there, and then we've talked to IKEA. IKEA's sort of like, it could work. We're interested. Let us know what happens with the city of Citrus Heights, and let us know what happens with Home Depot. Okay, but once you get those Home Depot deals, then IKEA looks at it a little bit harder and goes, yeah, you know what? Those Macy's boxes, we'll take one of those, right? And you take one of those Macy's boxes and you put some lipstick on it and make it look like a brand new building. You could do that with these boxes. All you do is reskin it, put a new facade on it, and all of a sudden it looks like a brand new building. Like people look at it and go, that's like a brand new IKEA. No, it was a Macy's that was converted to a home IKEA that looks like a brand new building, right? So you do that there, and guess what? Then you got people coming from Roseville, Folsom, wherever, coming to that IKEA, bringing the tax dollars here, right? That's what we want. And then guess what? You get that IKEA there, then those other restaurant uses and all these other uses you want to have, guess what? Those people want to be there too, right? So you get it's like you get the snowball rolling, right? And you pick up better tenants as it goes, and it gets bigger, and it gets more momentum. That's what we want to have happen.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Perfect.
Before we go tonight,
Too. That was very nice. Thank you.
first of all, thank you for showing and coming tonight and being willing to take on questions.
Yes.
I'm going to ask 3 questions real quick. So our city council can kind of get a feel, you can get a feel for what's taking place. Question number 1, how many of you would approve the proposal that he's made here tonight?
With modifications.
Would you approve this plan right now?
This plan, what he proposed tonight. Okay. Number 2, how many are in favor of the concept that he has, but maybe with different businesses occupying those spaces?
I would just like to see Home Depot move farther toward the street, you'd get better traffic and away from the residences. So a
All
different
right.
layout might be better.
And the last question, how many of you disapprove of the plan altogether?
It could be way better.
Okay, all right, I just wanted our city council, Mary Jane Lopez Taft, to be able to take some notes. You guys can get a feel for it. And before we close, I want to apologize to the Wonder crowd here tonight. Next month, we will have Leslie Bloomquist. She is our chief city engineer, and she'll be talking about lighting, basically this area right here, down to the park. Everybody's in the dark, and so SMUD, they're collaborating with SMUD to come up with a new plan to get street lights in the area. She'll be here. And then last, where did Kat go? Okay, so get your raffle tickets out. And
Hey, Bill? 1 second.
Sure.
I forgot to mention one thing. I think I touched on it briefly, but we have a website set up. So if you didn't get your question answered tonight, you can ask the question there. And also, if you have other tenants you suggest that you think would be good tenants for the City of Citrus Heights at this location, send them in. We're certainly willing to look at them and certainly want to do the best thing for the community by having those tenants there. In fact, over the years, I've gotten really good ideas from the residents in different areas that we implemented. We got those tenants there. So, I mean, for example, Trader Joe's in Roseville, we did a deal there recently. That was partially because the tenants wanting to have a Trader Joe's there. And so we were able to do that successfully. And they were on our radar, but it helped that a lot of people wanted to see them there. So thank you very much again.
Thank you. Do I get to draw tonight? Wow, this is a first.
Yes, please.
Okay, get your ticket out. And the last 4 numbers, 81. Gee, I bet everybody has an 81, right? 4, 6. 8146.
That's me.
What? Okay. Hey, and thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate. Oh, we have one more? Oh. I guess you realize we're gonna have a bigger crowd tonight. Okay.
This one is courtesy of
Oh, DK. Okay. The last number is 8130. Wait a minute, didn't you win last week? Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for coming.